Hi, everybody. Welcome to the quarantine series, the quarantine film series. We're back. We're back at it. I'm your host, Kabir Segal, coming to you live from the ATL, Atlanta, Georgia. Hi to everyone out there watching around the world. Also, a special hello to the people downstairs. Hi, Mom and Dad. Thanks for watching. Always great to have you here. All right. So, the quarantine series, we're always putting the spotlight on creative people, musicians, filmmakers, authors. These are the people that just create the stories and the content and the music that we all so much enjoy. And so if you can, and if you have the means, please support the projects you learn about on this broadcast. I also think it's important to think local. So if you can, check out the local film festival that may have been canceled or might be virtual, the local bookshop. Let's do what we can to be there for the creative community, artists, authors, audiences. We all need each other. So let's be there for each other. All right, so a couple things here. If you want to learn who will be on the show, you know what to do. Just go to one of my social media channels. We're pretty much available everywhere, and just subscribe, and then you can get in the loop and in the know as to who's on, and then you can also start preparing your questions, the hard-hitting questions that you want to know. And of course, if you do have a question, drop it in the comment field. I don't have to ask all the questions. I like asking some of the questions, but let us know what's on your mind. Drop a query, drop a comment in the comment field, no matter if you're watching live or if you're watching on a rebroadcast. Please let us know what's on your mind. And lastly, let us know where you're watching from. We got Atlanta in the house. We got Southern California in the house today. Let us know where you're tuning in from. Drop a comment. I always like knowing all the international places. A special hello to everyone in Kuala Lumpur who's checking us out. Who would have thought? Malaysia. Love Malaysia. All right. Petronas Towers and everything. All right. So let's now for the main event, get to meet the terrific filmmaker, artist, auteur, and she really is doing things at the highest level. She is a hyphenated individual, a writer, director, producer, activist. So many hats. Her new film, I'll Meet You There, was selected for the August South by Southwest Film Festival. We're going to talk about it. And she is, there's a lot of serendipity to her and a lot of synchronicity. I'm actually really excited to welcome her to the show live from Los Angeles. Please welcome Iram Parveen Bilal. Welcome.
Hello, how are you?
I'm great.
So nice to tune in with you, and so nice to meet you there.
Likewise, it's so great to have you here. First, I've got to ask you, how is the quarantine impacting you? How is it impacting some of your projects?
Oh my God. Where do I start? How much time do I have? I mean, as independent filmmakers, you work. It's a dream to be in competition at a Sundance or a South by. It's such small odds. My heart breaks today. Sundance just announced their lineup and they shrunk for the quarantine, but South by was going to be big. And I actually found out I was in the festival when I was 39 weeks pregnant. And my daughter was 2 weeks old when I found out I was in competition. And it was the best thing I needed in postpartum. So the lockdown has affected me in the sense that 6 days before we were about to take off for what would have been the most well-produced premiere I could have done, everything got canceled. So it has been a real year. I will say, though, just with the light at the end of the tunnel, with the vaccine, and just with figuring out ways to learn new skills, I'm very surprised and impressed at the amount of resilience in the human race, and even just in myself. I always thought I was very strong, but I got pushed. I really sort of broke down and rebuilt this year. So it's been fine. I've been very fortunate to be that hyphenate that you just mentioned, because I was able to write, because directing was kind of off the table. But to challenge myself, I remote directed. I just wrapped a short film I remote directed just through Zoom. So
wow.
4 cities, 2 countries. So I'm curious on what happens there. But, you pivot, you learn, you grow. Just grateful that we're all here, happy, healthy, and our families are safe.
Yeah, exactly. Tell me about your day, your typical day in quarantine. How do you spend your time? Do you wake up at the same time? Do you always sit in that director's chair behind you? Do you go for a walk? What's the typical routine like?
So I have to admit, I did not production design this office for the quarantine, but it works really well. People really think I have. So I wake up early because my daughter wakes us up early. I try and go for a walk. I definitely meditate. And then I just have breakfast, do my stretches, have breakfast, and just plop down in this chair because my husband and I share childcare. Our daughter's turning 1, inshallah, in a week. And I get 9 to 1. And then I have to take care of the baby from like 1 to 5. So I just go like super crazy speed, typing, producing, doing everything I need to. And then I try and take calls when I have Rumi with me. I take calls and just try and do meetings. Earlier in the quarantine, she was small and she just like lay down, and she was just always lying down or napping. And now it's kind of becoming very difficult. Especially in our business, everybody wants to do video. So my husband is still working in the engineering field, so he gets to switch off his video. So whenever there's an important, like right now, he's taking care of the baby because this is technically supposed to be my caring time. But that's kind of how my day runs. And then in the evening, after the baby's put down for her sleep time, that's when we catch up on work and just watch a show. Queen's Gambit was just finished, and just kind of relax. But that's kind of rinse and repeat, frankly. And then just all the organizations and things you're a part of, just these never-ending Zooms in the evenings, which are now tapering down, thank God.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, please convey our thanks for the waiver. You got to be on the show. We appreciate it. On during the child care time. Let's talk about your terrific project, and I'll meet you there. I want to know more about the project, why you got involved with it. It's such a and I've been hearing about this project for a while now. Tell us about it.
It's a very near and dear film. Actually, the script was something I wrote in film school forever ago. It was the first script I wrote. It was kind of like 6-7 years out of 9/11. It wasn't really about 9/11, but it was about, the spark came when I went to a community event and I saw this very Orthodox dressed Muslim man. He had a beard and like his prayer cap, and but he was in a cop uniform. And it just triggered me in such an interesting way because I was like, these are the fresh years of the Patriot Act. I had just graduated from Caltech, and one of my friends, an Iranian friend, her father was pulled out of the mosque, morning prayers, and after 2 years in jail, like apparently he incorrectly filed his taxes. So there was this Patriot. So there was a lot going on, and I was just like, oh my God, this guy, what an interesting job. Like, what's the internal conflict he's facing? And then after 9/11, I felt there was such a spotlight on the Muslim community that everybody was just like, oh my God, what kind of Muslim am I? Because when I'm in a room, I'm suddenly an expert on Islam. That's how you were treated. And so within the community, there was like a Protestant movement and like a born again movement, I felt, if I were to put it in those words. And so I became more and more spiritual and sort of what Kabbalism is to Judaism, Sufism is to Islam in some ways. So just a lot more spiritual and following a Sufi tradition. And my sister has become more conservative. So she, who taught me how to dance, now thinks dancing and music are sinful. And, we have a way of respecting and coexisting. But there were a lot of things that I wanted to ask, and it was too uncomfortable to ask. And so my characters asked those questions to each other. So these two things, amongst others, just kind of formed the family and the ensemble piece that you see on me there, which is about a Muslim cop to a teenage ballerina. And it's about what happens 5 minutes into the film when the estranged grandfather shows up unannounced on the doorstep from Pakistan. The cop, who's just been asked by his boss to go undercover in a mosque, or just been asked by the FBI to go undercover in the mosque, uses his dad to enter the mosque. And so it's about what happens at home and at work. And he's like, it's an onion. And as the layers are peeled, a family, you realize, how do you stay true to yourself and still belong to your family? And given that the Supreme Court just ruled in favor of, in New York, of Muslims who were placed on no-fly lists, Muslims who said no to surveillance or to being spies for the FBI, it's pretty incredibly timely. And also just the way this film, I can keep talking, but essentially this is a very difficult film to make. We raised financing and lost financing twice. And then finally, the thing that really kickstarted it was a Seed and Spark crowdfunding campaign. That after the Muslim ban happened, after Trump was in power, one of his first executive orders, if not the first, correct me. I was at LAX in these protests, and I was shaking. And I can share that piece with you, but it was a pretty incredibly emotional moment. And that is when I was like, this film needs to happen now. And then we raised $101,000 in crowdfunding, which is pretty big for a crowdfund for an indie film. And then that kickstarted the entire investment process, but it's a sweet turn now because we are going to be coming out to the world a week after Biden reverses that executive order. So
Here. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about on the production side, put your producer hat on. Tell me about the creative team that you had on this project, who you worked with, and what the key relationships were as you forged this project.
I mean, with film, especially being a creative producer, all the way from like building. So because this film was in process for a while, all the heads of departments had been people I'd identified with, worked with before, who wanted to do the film. So my director of photography, my production designer, a line producer, some of the actors, they were like, whenever you make this, we're with you. So, anything from trying to film in LA or Chicago or New York, we ended up shooting New York for Chicago. It literally would be that, the film was alive and the financing was coming together. So I would literally call Michael and be like, I'm in New York. It's like, I'm in New York. I feel like eating dumplings, meet me at Jackson, like this place. And then we'd go and walk on, on the street in Jackson Heights and be like, okay, this is it. This is literally how things were coming together. And then the money came together, and then the cast was just a dream cast. Farhan Tahir he'd been eyeing the script for a while. He'd come for a table read a year ago. But, the way things work in the film business, it's almost like you can't commit to one sometimes to cast way ahead of times. So it just, yeah, I feel like suddenly, like you're on a horse racing, and suddenly you're just seeing all these horses, and then everybody like is in a line, and you're all reaching the finish line at the same time. Like it's a Wild West field, and you're just running. And the closer you get to the finish line, the longer the line of other horses with you. And that's kind of filmmaking. It's like you put a date, if you build it, they'll come. And you put a date and the film somehow comes together. So I've done everything from like, taking $10,000 in like black plastic bags from people because like money transfer from Pakistan was being difficult. So someone would pay a family member there. And it's just been an insane, hard thing to put together.
Wow, suitcases of cash. All right. Yeah. Talk a little bit about the music. I always like to ask about the music for the project, who you worked with, and how you thought about pairing the moving image with the music.
So the music is very instrumental because the dance that is done in the film is South Asian classical dance called Kathak. And so that is, so we needed to have music to choreograph ahead of the shoot. So there's incredible Pakistani musicians, Ehsan Bari and Faisal Beg, under their collective called Sign Collective. They did the music initially for the dancing, and then they scored the film as well. And it's very organic. The music inspired the edit, and the edit inspired the music. Nothing was finalized, before the other aspect of it. So it'll be special to bring this film to the world, just because it has truly been a labor of love.
Yeah, tell me about bringing it to the world. Like, what has been the early response from those who've seen it, and has anyone in I don't know, South Asia seen it? What's been the response there?
So the South Asian, so we are going to be distributed in North America early next year. So we haven't actually officially distributed in South Asia yet. So we're hoping some of the theaters might be open in March to do a theatrical in Pakistan, inshallah. But as of now, no. But South Asian diaspora has been seeing it through this festival called COSAF. I tried to limit the festival exposure after the South by cancellation because it got to a point where it was becoming nerve-wracking with distributors, the whole conversation of geo-blocking and limitation of seats and all of that. Because the virtual world, I mean, it comes with such new factors. So we're going to be doing these amazing live digital events that are going to be announced soon that are sort of thematically inspired from the movie. So, nights on race and surveillance, immigration and identity, rhythms of Pakistan, workshops with the DP and production designer, and how you guard a frame on a small budget. Because all that matters is what's in the frame. The world could be falling apart around the frame and no one's going to know or care. So all of those things, and a gala. So we've got a bunch of stuff planned, and it's going to be exciting. But for South Asia, I think it's going to be a little later. And then, once VOD is done, then hopefully it'll live on the Netflixes and the Hulus like later in the year. So
awesome. I'm wishing you All the best with that. We have a question wanting to know about the casting. How do you think about the casting, and what was the process like in onboarding the actors?
So the casting is very, thank you for that question. The community is very small, so I kind of knew a lot of the main players like Sheetal and Farhan and Muhammad Qadi Khan is a legend in Pakistan. He's won a Lifetime Achievement Award in like music, film, TV, radio, theater, everything. But casting him, getting the whole visa process for the O1, all of that it was a dream because on an indie budget, we just had one shot. And so we filed everything, I think June of 2018 when we were shooting. And then I came back and literally 3 weeks before the shoot, his O1 was granted and he showed up. So he was the person I really wanted for that role. Farhan also was somebody I was pursuing for a while. Nikita was found through casting directors. It was the first time I was fortunate to work with casting directors just because, on indie budgets, that's usually difficult. They ended up finding the rest of the cast for us. And Nikita is a gem. I can't wait for the world to see her performance. So that's kind of how it came. I'm very particular about casting. I often say I'm a director because of actors. They teach me so much about life. Just kind of playing with emotions and seeing how they react teaches me so much about the human condition. And so everything to me as a director, more than half of it is casting, because then I can just show up on set and relax and watch them do their magic and just kind of literally like adjust and play.
Yeah, I hear you. And is there in terms of the projects you take on, is there a sort of a philosophy that, or an aesthetic of the films you like to take on? Because you have quite an eclectic portfolio of things you've worked on. So what are the attributes of a project that compel you to get involved with it?
I think things that just align with my core values. So, honesty, empathy, persistence, resilience, authenticity. The reason that you find a variance and a variety of projects is probably because I'm growing as a person and evolving. So at any time, I just let these projects and these pitches and whatever I'm working on seep through me. And if it resonates and it's the same frequency, I'll do it. So I don't think there's a formula. I just think that at the heart of it, if it's a kind and an honest story that is truly trying to understand and better understand human emotions, human opinions, then why not? It serves all of us to engage in it and watch it, consume it, reflect it, and share it.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. What can you tell us about what you just have been working on remotely, if anything?
Oh my God, it's just a fun. I was thinking, what can I do? What can I write so that I could actually do it this way? I didn't want to do a film about quarantine because that's the last thing that we want to see after getting out of a quarantine. But the idea was, I was just thinking about loss and goodbyes and just the fear, especially at the beginning of the pandemic. And so I thought about, the last 24 hours before people are being sent. There was this whole Mars colony idea that came about a few years ago. So it's something similar to that, where you're with these people who are about to enter a rocket and be shot into space to form new human colonies. So you're in the last 24 hours with them and their loved ones. And their memories are going to be wiped and they're going to be reset because we want to have a world without labels and see if there is the test experiment is to have a world without labels. So that's what it's called, Penultimate. So it'll be interesting. It was an experiment. I have to see if it cuts together.
Got it. Got it. And last question, broad question, some of your inspirations as a filmmaker.
Oh my God. No one person, but, obsessed with Mira Nair, Julie Taymor, Michael Winterbottom, oh my God, Train Spotting, Danny Boyle, love Iranian cinema, Majid Majidi, love Jacques Audiard, just international cinema. I'm not a big fan of this is blasphemy, I guess, but not a big fan of sort of the Godfather type of films. But
Right.
that's not my influence at all.
I hear you.
So yeah.
Those are great. Those are great. Well, look, let's make sure everyone can go to your website. I think we have a banner here or a crawl. There it is. There it is. Please go to the website on the crawl, and you can see her portfolio of projects and all the great work that you're doing. Also find her on social media and follow her. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you. What a delight. I'm so happy to see that. I can't believe how many shows you've done, and thank you for, providing a spot, like a spark in everybody's, day, creative
Of
day.
course. Thank you for that. All right, that's our show today, everyone. Thanks for being with us. And if you want to learn who'll be on the broadcast, subscribe to my social media. Take care of the art. It will take care of you. Bye, everyone.